some of the things that I'm hearing. I just want everybody to realize that we are servants who care for students every day. So no matter what is said tonight, please remember that the teachers that you heard, the superintendent that you hear, whether Ms. Smith is going to say anything tonight, these people spend their lives caring about children. So for us to sit here and have someone say that COVID is false, I'm sorry. We care for kids. That's what we do.
At this point, I want to ask members of the board, and I know Martin was one that wanted to perhaps ask questions or comment, if they have any questions or comment for the administration on these topics. Okay, when Mr. O'Donnell returns, he may have had to step out for any reason. We'll open that opportunity up to him. Is this him? Martin, we just opened up the floor to members of the board who had questions or comments for the superintendent or assistant superintendent on the topics we were discussing. Okay. No.
So you're all looking at me. That means you guys are all done.
You want to comment? So comment.
So just a couple comments I want to make on the critical race theory thing. Okay. I'm in complete concurrence with our superintendent in what it is, but what it's become by certain groups out there is something totally different. Okay, CRT was originally designed to be taught on a doctorate and master's level, and it was very different than what people in the news are calling it today. All right, what they're calling it today is something that it isn't. And if you look at 4454, it talks about inclusion, it talks about diversity. Okay. The people who talk about the critical race theory and want that in our schools take that to a level it wasn't originally supposed to be at. Okay. And I can confidently say that I don't think you'll see that level in your school district. All right. We do have level-headed administrators. We do have level-headed board members. We do have level-headed teachers. And I'm confident in saying that if somebody pushed that envelope too far, they'd be stopped. Okay, just another comment I wanted to make in reference to the masks. And if I was out there in the public, I'd make this comment, but because I'm here, I can't speak as a public person because I'm on the board right now. But what I will say is the one thing that that wasn't really brought up or discussed about wearing a mask is what we're doing to our children's immunities. All right, our younger kids build their immunities by being by getting viruses and getting sicknesses. And, I've always been of the thought that in about 5 years, we're going to have some pretty sick kids because they haven't developed those immunities. And the longer we keep the masks on, the worse that's going to get because these kids aren't exposed to a lot of things. And do I believe what that woman said about wearing the masks, that there weren't so many flu cases? Yeah, I do. But that tells the story. There weren't as many cold cases. I know my kids didn't come home sick like I have 9 children, so I've been through the mill a few times. But my kids always come home sick from school, and they haven't been sick in a very long time. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just wanted to mention that because nobody did. But that's I think a key component of our kids growing up. We're sitting here caring about them getting COVID, but we're not looking at the long-term picture of this. All right, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I know we're mandated to wear these things in the schools now, so we have to, and the children have to. And I would urge you to write your representatives, write your governor, and like Mr. Parringer said, take care of it at the ballot box too. So I'm good.
Thank you. Other members of the board have anything? Okay. Ms. Viana, would you like to continue with your report?
Certainly, thank you. Again, my superintendent's report for the evening is brief. School begins for the faculty on September 1st. Opening day workshops include equity and diversity, not critical race theory. Classroom aides have already been in to prepare for the school year and learn about the students they will be supporting. A special thanks to their attendance and to the Department of Special Services for organizing the meetings. Students return for full days of instruction on September 7th. Masks will be worn indoors for all students, faculty, staff, and visitors, with a few exceptions. That is outlined in the Governor's Executive Order 251. Masks are also required on buses. Physical distancing will be practiced in all schools. Outdoor learning spaces will be utilized wherever possible while weather permits. You saw some pictures in our slideshow this evening of tents. They are up or going up all around our school district. Vaccines are required for all school employees by October 18th, 2021, or a negative COVID test result 1 to 2 times per week. Just for the information of all residents of Vernon, at Vernon Township High School, we are hosting 2 vaccine clinics. The hours are from 8 to 1 and 3 to 8 at the Plus Building at Vernon Township High School. They're on September 22nd and October 13th. September 22nd is the first shot of the Pfizer vaccine for COVID. October 13th is the second shot of the COVID Pfizer vaccine. October 13th is also a flu shot if folks are interested in that. It is sponsored by Acme, and it's open to all eligible folks ages 13 and over. Details on proof of fully vaccinated status or negative COVID tests 1 to 2 times per week are forthcoming. And this week at Vernon Township High School, we hosted tech camp with wonderful professional development workshops delivered by faculty and administrators with excellent attendance. You saw some pictures in the slideshow. Thank you, Dr. McKay, for highlighting that. And that is the first part of my superintendent's report. May I move on to goals?
Yes, thank you.
Before I go through the goals, I wanted to thank the board members. I received feedback from several of you regarding metrics and measurement and reporting out. So I wanted to thank everyone for assisting me. It should be in your packet as attachment A. I also wanted to note for the board that even though there are certain metrics or benchmarks noted on here in bold under each of the indicators, that I will be reporting out on these as often as possible. But I think it's really important to keep the board and the community informed of the progress towards the goals, because they don't just involve me, even though they're superintendent goals, they involve Dr. McKay, and they involve our school administrators and members of our faculty. The first one, superintendent goal number 1, assess, monitor, or improve wellness practices in the district to support student and staff mental and physical health and academic growth, with a focus on continued transitioning and support of students and staff back to the ever-changing school environment while considering the future needs of our students and staff post-COVID. The first item is develop a plan to re-enroll, identify, and recruit lost or unenrolled, homeschooled, or transferred students as a result of the pandemic. I have concerns, of course, about our folks who will not be attending school with us live in person this year. And during the year, I'll be working under the indicators of success to make sure that we can have transitioning opportunities to bring those students and families back into our school district. The indicators of success are numbers 1 through 5. One of them is create academic SEL summer programs to provide supportive academic and transitional services for students. The second one is identifying unenrolled, homeschooled, or transfer students. The third one is creating after school or other programs to support the SEL and academic needs of disaffected students as a result of the pandemic. The fourth one is providing recommendations for how educators will need to shift instructional practice. And the fifth one is using ESSER funds or other grant funds to support services needed moving forward. Before I continue, does the board have any feedback, comments, recommendations?
Any members of the board?
No, thank you very much for updating them. Really appreciate that. Went through. One of the things I noticed, when I was looking over just the goals in general, and again, thank you for updating them, is on the right side, we have associated committee / personnel. and I noticed curriculum instruction and technology is listed. One of the things that I just in general want to bring up is that since we're a board of a whole, we're not board of committees. So I'm all for keeping the personnel on there because obviously they're personnel, but I have a concern about keeping committees on all the goals, not just this one, but as I went through, I thought it's almost unfair only because we only have 4 members on each. They can't always make it. We're not a set schedule and we meet when we can, when we have to cover things. So as I went through, that's why I'm just bringing it up for number 1. Just if we were a board of committee, I would wholeheartedly support it. But I just think in general, we should probably take the committees off only because we have to come back and do a board of a whole anyway.
So then the board of the whole would do the review of the metrics or any kind of
Right, because the
discussion.
committees can't do it and
Right.
we can only make a recommendation
Yep.
and we can't pass any votes.
Mhm,
So that's
okay.
just a concern I
Yeah,
have
I
in general.
appreciate that. Thank you, Teresa.
But otherwise, I mean, thank you very much.
So should we then remove all these committees from these?
I'm
goals?
comfortable removing
Are you
that. if
comfortable with
that-
that?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually, Mrs. Coughlin, I appreciate that. When I opened, I said that I'd like to report out to the board more regularly. So I'd be
Yeah.
reporting to the full board anyway. Do you know what I mean? So this, what you're
Yeah.
suggesting makes perfect sense. So thank you for the suggestion. So for the board, and you'll see later in the agenda that this is on for approval, but I know we have to go through a few more. But I'll
We can
remove-
approve as amended.
Yeah, is
Yeah,
that
that's
okay
fine.
so far to remove associated committees? And of course, we'll keep the personnel affiliated on that right-hand column. Is that acceptable for
Yeah,
your
that works
concern?
out great.
Okay,
Then
good.
that way,
So we're taking them all off?
Yeah,
Just-
so we'll
yeah,
remove.
we
all
can
Yeah,
of
keep
it.
the
all the committee
personnel.
stuff, yeah.
Okay.
but then
Okay.
just I would just amend the committees. That was what I thought of looking at them.
There are more items on superintendent goal number 1 is continued. Some of the other activities are utilize common planning time as PLCs where possible to assess students' academic growth and need and adjust instructional practices. As you know, with COVID last year, there was a large amount of interruption to our instructional practices in school. So it's important that we start to get back to utilizing assessments and benchmarks to understand where we can provide necessary instructional shifts to our students. Support the needs of classified students based on current and future changes to teaching and learning post-COVID. And number 4 is investigate adjusted school start time schedule for future use to meet the developmental needs of students which support physiological health and wellness. That is goal 1.
So then we're taking out item B, create special education committee, like, so are we taking that out?
Oh, not under indicators of success, right, Ms. Mitchell?
I don't know. I'm
I-
just not
Where-
asking that.
Yeah.
You're talking about.
Are you talking about number
I'm
3?
You're
talking
in number
about
3.
3B.
I'd like to keep a special education improvement committee and I'll share why. I met with Mr. Fay and, you know, we're talking so much and you'll see some of those letters A, B, C, and D about inclusivity and strengthening things like communication. You'll see that under letter D among special education staff. So I think the Special Education Improvement Committee, one of the things that Mr. Fay and I talked about was having a committee that includes not just Mr. Fay and Ms. McDougall, our school administrators, but also key people like members of the child study team, some special ed teachers, some aides, because it's really important that we have, we really want to strengthen the special education department. And I think having a special education improvement committee at the school level will start to work on the things that we need to do to improve. And of course, we'll report out on that to the full board as suggested.
Yeah, that's fine. Then they can do that. Keep us
Okay.
posted
And then we're going to revise our goals.
when we get there.
Would you like to continue, Mr. Vino?
Certainly. Okay. Rule number 2, assess district practices for equity, access, and inclusion using an inquiry approach. Major activities, and there are 1, 2, 3, I think 3 on this one. assess the access to programs, classes, and opportunities for underrepresented students, such as people of color, female, male students, LGBTQ, special needs students, neurodiverse, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, etc. I'll give an example of this. Typically, traditionally, and I don't know if this is true here or not, because I have not yet embarked on utilizing an inquiry tool that I received from the University of Pennsylvania that I'd like to take a look at first, is identifying the number or the percentage of female students, for example, in our high-level science, coding, robotics classes at the high school. We may or may not be consistent with the research here in Vernon. I don't know that, but I will discover that as I start to embark on utilizing the inquiry model. What I would hope we take a look at is making sure that if there are young ladies, for example, who do not have the opportunities to take things like robotics or, advanced placement science courses, that we start to remove barriers or provide support so that they have access to those types of programs. So the first one, and the indicators of success, includes a data-informed improvement inquiry model, which I received from 2 professors at the University of Pennsylvania with their blessing to use in the school district. I'd like to work with the administrative team to identify barriers that may exist for students. The second one is providing professional development and encouraging dialogue on equity with various community stakeholders. And the third one is creating an equity plan for the 22-23 school year. Superintendent goal number 3 is explore fiscally responsible actions to pursue healthy, safe, inclusive, as well as academic and sensory learning environments for our students and staff. As many of you know, we're embarking on the LRFP process, which I'm really excited about, the long-range facilities plan. So we'll utilize that as well as the results of the audit and allocated reserve funds to identify and update necessary facilities items. Number 2 on there is to assess current learning spaces and create a multi-year plan for more inclusive, sensory, innovative learning spaces. I'm excited that we'll be working with EI architects to come in and do walkthroughs of our buildings so that we can put together the educational part of the LRFP in conjunction, of course, with the Buildings and Grounds Committee and Ms. Linsky, School Business Administrator. And then the third item, we talked about a little bit last week. This ties into some of the discussion we had with the board goals about monitoring in-district spending in collaboration with Ms. Linsky, Dr. McKay, and of course, the administrative team. We are still an S2 district who has lost $10 million over 6 years. So questions about goal number 3? And finally, superintendent goal number 4, continue to pursue a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Pennsylvania. Continue to utilize coursework to inform and inspire necessary change in the Vernon Township School District. With my anticipated graduation date of May 19th, 2022, my oral proposal was accepted in May of 2021. I am currently collecting data and look forward to successfully defending my dissertation in the spring.
Awesome.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board on the superintendent goals?
I just have a quick question. On goal number 4, it says, continue to utilize coursework to inform and inspire necessary change in the Vernon Township School District. I was wondering if, this has been on there last year too, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Just wondering, maybe I wasn't here for this or whatever, but I was just wondering if you might be able to comment on how that program has helped and what you've done with that knowledge to make changes in the school district that have improved it.
One thing I can be specific about, and I can't go into everything, but I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Mr. O'Donnell, last year, I shared with all of our school administrators one of the texts. It's called Democratic Discord in Schools. It actually talks about ethical dilemmas and questions, and it actually ties into some of the civics things that we are now required to teach, ironically. But last year at the middle school, we started an ethics council, also as a result of the work at UPenn, and to actually try to tie into decrease bullying in our schools. So that was tied directly to coursework from UPenn. Trying to think of
Right
some
here.
other examples. Oh, my topic.
Yeah.
My topic of study is women in educational leadership, which comes directly from the University of Pennsylvania, but also I've been studying things like distributed leadership and transformational leadership. So the way I run the administrative meetings
Yep.
are inclusive. They allow each of our administrators to have a voice on the agenda. We use a distributed leadership model with the administrative team in our meetings. So that's a direct result of organizational leadership studies at UPenn. Trying to think of some other examples. I can provide you with. some
Yeah, I
more.
kind of put you on the spot, but I just
Yeah.
was curious.
Part of it is trying to embed it in the day-to-day. I want to say in May or March, I don't remember. I thought that I put together a list of items in a superintendent's report that were tied directly to my goals from last year. And I thought I was a little more specific, but I'll make sure I follow and get that for you as well.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions on the superintendent goals?
Just one other thing I'd like to add, but I think overall good. On number 1, it says the total number of students registered for AP exams will be
Yes.
more than those from last year. Instead of just registered, can we put registered and take the exam?
I think I had two, hold on, wait, I can't.
Right,
Yeah,
no, it's
it said
1-4.
Registered.
Oh,
I don't know, is there, goal
This is
number 1.
this is a discussion that we are definitely having, which is we want to increase the amount of students who take the test.
Right,
So the first start of that is to get them registered to take the class. I think some of them find the possibility of taking that class daunting, so we have to get past that threshold. And that's really part of some of the goals you've done.
right.
Yeah.
But you know what, although, Mrs. Coughlin, I think on letter A, it talks about the total number of students registered for the exam.
Mhm.
And it also talks about the total number of students registered for the courses. Were you talking about
Yep.
the number of students who take the exam?
well, I don't know, because it says, all right, I'm going to go back to A, number 5.
Yes.
Goal 1, number 5A. Just to create an action plan to have students register
Yes,
for the AP exams. Okay, so they register.
only because the
Metric.
deadline is November 1st. In
Okay.
other words, they have to register by November 1st. You know what I
Totally
mean? For the-
understand.
the spring exam.
So then, I guess my question is, so you're only worried about the number of kids registering, not the number of kids actually taking the exam? And like, kids can take exams without taking the class. So like, are you worried about them
Right.
registering for classes and the
Yes.
I
exam?
understand the question.
Okay, but
Yeah.
not, like, you can have a kid can register for the SAT, but they may not take it. Like,
Right,
that's just my thing.
Yeah,
Are we
what
worried
we-
about the number registered or the number?
right. The only
taking the
reason that,
exam.
and I understand what you're saying, and I can modify it. The only reason I selected this was because in the past, we found that children who register take the exam, but
Right,
we had a hard time getting kids to register. So that's why the goal first talks about registering for the exams, especially because the registration is so early. It's by November 1st.
right.
And then, of course, the next piece for me is really looking at the number of courses that students are registering for, for next year. But we
Gotcha.
can, I'd be glad to also provide some data with a comparative data, Teresa, that shows the number of children who registered in November and compare it to the number of children who actually took the exam in the spring.
I'm not even so
We
much
have
worried.
that.
I
We will
just
have
want to
that.
make sure, people can register for things, but then
Mhm.
make sure that they take it.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
what-
Mhm. No, this is
Yeah.
this is a
hey,
national
there's a big
discussion, Teresa.
difference between registering and taking
Yeah.
something. So I just
Right.
wanted to make sure
Mhm.
that I understand registering for AP courses, because obviously if you register for it and you change your mind and your schedule changes, that's different.
Right,
But the total number of students registered for an AP exam will be more than those from last year. So I just want to make the point that, yes, the student can register, but we should also make sure we should see, did they take it too? That's it.
certainly.
Ms. Savina,
Not so much the course.
do you
but
want
the
to add
exam.
anything to that goal so
If
that
you
you're
wanna
also
keep
looking
it
at
just as
metrics
register, that's
for
fine.
students who have completed the exam
Well,
as well?
I mean, I think it's important for us to look at the number of students who take the exam. It's my, and I don't know the numbers. It's my understanding that those who registered did follow through and took it in the past, and that was the only reason I didn't have it there.
Okay,
But we can take a look at that as well. So maybe the total number of students registered for AP exams will be more than those from last year. As well as those students taking the exams, right?
yeah, I mean, if you register.
Yeah.
Take it, yep.
Yes.
That's all, I just want to make sure that our kids who are
So
registering,
do you want that to say the total number of
just
students
having them actually take it.
registered for
Mhm.
and taking the AP exams will be
Yeah.
more than those from last year.
Yeah.
And then maybe in May, you'll say to us, I don't know, 45 kids registered for 75 tests, and
Right.
due to fill in the blank, 75 tests were registered for, but they took 70. Like, just, things happen.
Okay.
Right.
You
I
know
get
what I would
No
like to do
problem.
too, can we add to like an agenda like once a month that we just kind of talk about, did we, like what the metrics are on these goals?
I was
So-
planning, I'm sorry, I was planning on putting it as an addendum to my superintendent's report
okay, that'd be
monthly. Is
great.
that okay?
Because we've
Yeah.
always said that, like, oh, we should really like report out each month, and then we just don't do it.
We do
So
it like periodically.
Well,
Yeah.
twice a
when
year or
Kelly and
something.
I, because we are certified leadership, when we went to our certified training, in my group, we were the only district that didn't publicly report on the goals. One month they did superintendent's goals, the next month they did board goals,
Yeah.
the next month they did superintendent's goals, and it was a regular on their agenda. And it didn't have to be big in depth. Sometimes they said it was just a 5-10 minute overview.
Right.
But every other district in my training went over them, and it was a standard on their, did you have the same?
I did.
Okay.
So, that way it's like,
Yeah.
you're being mindful of it,
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
speaking to it,
And
and
that
then
way it just
reporting out.
keeps everybody on track, and even the board is one, so that
Right.
way, we're
So-
all aware of what needs to be accomplished.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'd like to see,
Yeah.
but if you want to put that as part of the superintendent's report, or what have
Right.
you, I just want to make sure that we put it in there,
Mhm. Yeah, I
because
think
then
it's
that'll
good.
give us an outline.
Yeah, I also received a call from a board member who's not present tonight requesting the same thing. I think it's a
Oh,
great idea.
Right,
so.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
I just have one more thing. I don't want to stretch this out too long, but last week when we had our meeting, Dr. McKay, in response to one of my comments about children who weren't going to go to college after high school, had said that approximately 18% of our graduating class does not go to college after high school. So I'd like to see if we could, maybe, and you guys can tell me how you feel about this, but a superintendent goal that focuses on improving the experience for those children and the readiness for those children when they graduate high school and go right out into the workforce, or learn a
Mhm.
trade or something of those nature. Because we always talk about kids going to college. We always talk about tests. We talk about SAT scores. But I think we need to focus, given that 18%, on some programs, or at least, or something for those children who are going to graduate and go, okay, now I got to go to work.
I agree.
So I don't know what necessarily that goal is. I just think we should put something on there to focus on these kids, so they're not left out in the cold. I'm not saying they are, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
So I think it would probably go under superintendent goal number 1, Mr. O'Donnell, because we're talking about improving, everything, right? Wellness practices, academic, social, emotional growth. And that's where the AP goal is.
Mhm.
But that's where I think
Do
we
you
would,
think,
I'm
you don't
sorry.
think it would fall under goal two?
No.
That in many ways
Equity,
it could deal with
access and
equity and,
inclusion. It could go in either place. I will tell you that, one of the great pipelines, I think, for the students that you're referring to are our CTE programs.
Mhm.
And while Dr. McKay and I would love to add, in my old district, they used to call me the idea fairy, and I have not been able to be the idea fairy here because we don't have any money. So unfortunately, through the CTE programs, our pathways grants
Mhm.
are done now, aren't they?
Yes, the pathway grant is finished. Yeah.
Right, so, but there may be other ways that we can take a look, and maybe the goal really needs to start by looking at opportunities, right, to strengthen the experiences. I think that's what I'm hearing from you, of our children who are not college bound while they're in high school, to prepare them better for career, right, and life beyond
so I'm guessing that
high school.
that entire 18% is not in this program you're talking about,
In which program?
the CTE.
No, they
program.
may be.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
it
they may be.
depends. It would be hard to do like kind of a broad brush, you know what I mean, on the 18%, right?
Mhm, mhm. Because oftentimes, students who are also in the CTE program, because they're aligned with some of the programs that they have at the Sussex County Community College, because we've deliberately aligned it,
Mhm.
they have headed on to those programs, but it would be more like what we would traditionally call a trade route as opposed
Right.
to a college route, but it's happening at the community college.
Mhm.
John Connolly, Dr. John Connolly has been a visionary, in my opinion, over at SECC with the idea of offering the programs just like you're talking about after 2 years with his.
And I mean,
school.
if we could partner with local contractors and give these kids some credit for
Yeah.
going to work after,
Yeah.
at a certain time or something along
Yeah.
those lines. I know that when I was in high school, we did that. It worked very effectively.
Yep.
And, they would have to go to work in order to get that credit. But
One of the things we did when we formed the construction facilities and maintenance program is we tied it to the local operating contractors out of Fairfield, that union. So we went down and talked to a man named Pat Lynch, and he sends a representative up to talk to the young men and women in the construction facilities program about their training program that they have right after school. That test is in October, and some of our kids have taken that test. And then go into that trade program. So if that's what you're talking about, yeah, we have developed that. We have the same thing with the cosmetology program in which they can go, because they're basically licensed by the time they get out, if they get their hours in. And of course, there's summertime involved with that as well with Miss Susan. But then they go straight into the workforce. So we have seen some significant success with the CTE programs. And the idea was to make our high school a truly comprehensive high school.
So if we're looking to include that as a goal for our superintendent, what is the goal and what are the metrics that we're thinking about?
not knowing enough about the inner workings of that group of kids within the school, I don't know that I could make that determination. I think that Ms. Davino and Dr. McKay would probably be better off at doing that, knowing what kids are in what programs. Do they have to attract kids into these programs? That type of thing. So I'm not exactly
Right,
sure
so
what that goal would be.
We have to
The
approve
two
this
programs I
by
just
tonight,
talked, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
so
great.
you have to
Yeah.
give
So
it
we,
now.
yeah, we do have to vote on these tonight because the contract.
May I,
with-
may I
okay.
make a suggestion? I don't know that we've done this before, but we could, if the board pleases, approve these as amended and then create an addendum for this one additional goal that we can approve perhaps at the September meeting, if that's
yours on the
I
acceptable.
mean, I think it's easy to
That's all
just
I'll
put
do
it in there.
Right now.
Yeah, just put it
Okay.
in.
Just put it in. You have to
What is the
tell them what
verbiage
you
of
want.
that goal?
What
So
has to
then
be done
we
now,
wanna,
you have to approve tonight.
Give me a few minutes. I'll put something together. Okay, and then we can put it on there. We have to vote on this right now.
We have to vote on this later in the
Later in the
agenda.
meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
later in the meeting. So get working.
be careful what you wish for. Is that what they say?
Okay, we will come back to the superintendent goals when we bring that up forward for a vote.
Okay.
Item 2 is recommendations.
Item 2A, it is recommended that the board approve the following faculty, staff resignations, retirements, terminations, leaves, transfers, assignment changes, appointments, stipends, salary adjustments, student teaching mentoring as listed. It begins at the bottom of page 4, noting, of course, that you're getting ready to start school. It goes through page 8 on your agenda, and there are also some items on the addendum as well.
Prior to a motion, I know that you need to amend
Yes.
this list.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you.
As stated, there's appointments on the bottom of page 5 with the skills lab stipend and the top of page 6, which we are pulling off and we will redraft hopefully for the September 9th meeting.
And those are the ESSER2 grant funding stipends
Absolutely.
that are on the bottom of page 5 and top of page 6.
We're pulling that off for tonight.
Okay, so can I have a motion for recommendation A as amended?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Zimmerman, second,
Second.
second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes, except for Melanie A.O. I abstained. Because
which one? I'm sorry, which one?
Melanie A.O., she's on the the addendum or the extra. She's the first one. She's cousin.
Mhm.
Yep, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Annunziata?
Yes, abstain on DEMSAC.
Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Motion carries. Letter B, It is recommended that the board approve professional development travel that complies with the provisions of New Jersey statutes annotated NJSA 18A:11-12, attachment B.
We have a motion for recommendation B.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second.
Second, Coughlin.
Second by Ms. Coughlin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes,
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item C, it is recommended that the board approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, school safety, and random drug testing reports.
Can we have a motion for recommendation C?
So move.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second.
Second, Coughlin.
Second by Ms. Coughlin. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Zimmerman,
yes,
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, item D, Mr. Vino, before we put this forward for a recommendation and
Does Mr.
a,
O'Donnell have verbiage?
Did you do your verb?
You're up.
All right, I'm not doing it.
You're
I
not
can't, I
doing
don't
it?
want to do it off the cuff like this. It's just not, it's.
okay, so
I
something
need
that
more
we,
information in
yes.
order to do that. So if we can't
So-
amend this, then I will just make it a suggestion.
well, what we can do is something that is a little bit, because the superintendent's goals is tied to the superintendent's evaluation, so it's a bit more formal. But the board goals are really the goals that we set at the district level to drive the decision-making at the board level and the conversation at the board level. Those are really, this is a living document. We can amend this as we go. So I would suggest that we
We could do
look
that.
at
or we can
including
go
that
forward.
as a board goal next month.
So we would make it a board goal and then make a recommendation,
Well, we added
because I
to,
can't see how we could possibly accomplish that. We're not the administration, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
well, we
how
could, we could
do that.
focus on it and then give our feedback to the superintendent and then they can work on it.
Yeah, it's something that we
We
could
can give a
have
direct-
discussed in the curriculum and technology
Okay.
committee.
Yeah, let's
And
bring
it could be
into
part of
curriculum.
student
Yeah.
life too.
Let's bring it into curriculum and then.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense,
So
because I
let's-
don't want to put something on paper
I
right
get
now
it.
that's not going to
Yeah.
be
Okay.
accurate
Yep.
and just.
No,
Right,
this is
that's
good.
fine.
This is good.
Okay, so, and the board goals are much easier to amend.
Right, and I'm on the
Yeah.
curriculum committee, so
Yep.
I'll. be part of
So-
it.
We'll bring
Um,
it into curriculum.
All right, so just to clarify, any amendments for the superintendent goals, we're going to be delisting the associated committees from the column to the right. And for superintendent goal 1, action item 5A, we will be amending that metric to state that the total number of students registered for and taking the AP exams will be more than those from last year.
Yes.
Yeah, if Mr. Vino's okay. with it.
Mhm, certainly.
We're all right. So,
Right, so letter D, it is recommended that the board approve the superintendent goals as amended for the 21-22 school year.
can we have a motion for recommendation D?
So moved.
Ms. Mitchell, second.
second,
Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Zimmerman,
yes,
Mr. Nunziata,
Abstain.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Mr. Vino, do you have anything else under your report?
I think there's one more item on
Okay.
the addendum.
Correct.
Thank you, board members. Believe it or not, I'm really excited to get started on my goals. I'm very excited about many of them. So item E, it is recommended that the board approve the 21-22 principal waiver request form for Dr. McKay to act as administrator and supervisor of Walnut Ridge School. And we are required to submit this to the Department of Education when we are naming someone as a principal who has another responsibility in the district.
Can we have a motion for recommendation E?
so moved,
Motion by Mr. Zimmerman, a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Zimmerman,
yes,
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Motion carried. Congratulations, Dr. McKay.
For adding to your list of duties.
That'll be great for your CV.
Thank you so much, Dr. McKay.
My pleasure. My
Okay,
pleasure.
item M.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Vino. Business Administrators Report.
We have item 1, the use of buildings and grounds listing.
Thank you.
Letter B, field trips. There's 1 field trip listed.
Thank you.
And C is certifying that no line item has been overspent.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, recommendations.
Letter A, it's recommended the board approve the following financial reports, which are the checks, transfers, and purchase orders.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2A?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second by Mr. Zimmerman. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote? Yes.
Yes, abstain from noted.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
Letter B, it's recommended that the board accept the report of the secretary.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2B?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Coughlin, a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 yes,
Yes. Thank you.
Letter C, it's recommended the board approve the transportation as listed.
We have a motion for recommendation C.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Coughlin, a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 yes,
Yes.
Letter D, the sent, received, and actually related services also for 2021, 2022 school year.
We have a motion for recommendation D.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second.
second,
Second by Mr. Zimmerman. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes, but abstain on SCESCs. I know.
Letter E, it's the first reading of the policies listed.
Can we have a motion for recommendation E? Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Letter F, it's recommended the board approve the 21-22 vaccine pharmacy services agreement with Albertson Acme to administer COVID-19 vaccines.
Can we have a motion for recommendation F?
So moved.
Ms. Mitchell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments?
That is what you were referencing before when you were speaking about.
Oh,
that.
this one.
Yes.
Okay, yep.
Okay. Can we please have a roll call vote?
Yep.
yes,
Yes.
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 Letter G, it's recommended the board approve the settlement agreement in the manner of prior OAL docket number EDS.
Can we have a motion for recommendation G? Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second.
Second, Coughlin.
Second by Ms. Coughlin. questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes,
Yes.
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 Letter H, it's recommended the board approve the board goals for the 2021-2022 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation H?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell,
Second.
second by Ms. Mitchell.
Did you forget my name?
No, never. Questions or comments? Okay, so the board goals, we worked on these last week during our work session.
We did.
We're gonna put these on the agenda again for our work session next week, next month, even though we're approving them tonight, because we can
Yes.
amend them and we should use it as an opportunity to see what our progress is on some of the items. I know that.
So for September 9th, it's back on the agenda.
Yep, because we're gonna track some of our progress and we're gonna have it on the agenda throughout the year as well to talk about these again.
Okay.
Mr. Smaglia emailed Ms. Mitchell and I with
Yes.
some of his feedback on these as well. I know that Martin has some ideas. This should be the board goals should be a living document. It's a great way to gather consensus from the board on items that are of priority, and it's a great way for the administration to get feedback from us on what our priorities are. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have an idea, something I'd like to add. For district goal number 2, under the special services, number 4, with the whole special services as chair. One of the things I would like to do to add to the goals is that we, being in a proactive measure, like Mrs. Davino said, to strengthen the special services department. I think the district should be doing, we should do a special education audit and put it in the goals. And then that way we could move forward, and that would help us in a proactive measure for the district.
So then put in F, right?
Right, F.
Special,
What does a special
Just gonna
services
ask that
audit
question.
entail, Ms. Coughlin?
Well, a special education, I mean, just like we do a financial audit, we have an audit with you in the buildings and grounds and whatnot. It's an independent, we would hire someone like we did with the architects to come in and go through the special education and tell us what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. If we have the special education improvement committee, you know, they would only complement each other, help each other find what they have. And I think it would be a good measure to do.
so then would we ask Teresa to,
Teresa Linsky? probably.
yeah,
Oh,
Teresa Linsky,
Probably Nathania, our attorney, would be the person.
to hire these people?
Well, they can make recommendations, kind of like, you know, like Teresa handling the buildings, did with the architects. Our attorney would give us,
They would give us the auditors that we should work with?
that we can pick and choose from, just like we
Okay.
chose the architects.
Okay.
Questions, clarifying
Um,
questions?
A question on a statement. I think we talked about this with Board Attorney, Ms. Simon, probably in the winter this year. And one of her concerns, and I don't want to speak for her, was that our Director of Special Services is with us probably about 6 months. And that I would hope we give him the opportunity to assess the department, because we've hired him to do a job to assess the needs of our district, rather than expending additional funds for an audit. And the audit might be helpful, but I'd prefer to give our director the opportunity to take a look at what we need first before we consider an audit. And unfortunately, Mr. Fay, as you know, attends almost every board
Yeah, I know,
meeting,
he's
and
not
tonight
here.
well, he could not be here this
I know.
evening, so it's unfortunate, but I didn't know this was going to be on the agenda for discussion.
It's not, I'm just adding it as a goal. See, and I'm looking at it from a totally different perspective of, yes, our administration is brand new. So therefore it would only benefit them that someone else will be able to come in, work with them, plus their committee, get an idea what they're, I mean, he's gonna have the committee to find out what works. And then we have the audit. Someone completely independent.
Yeah, I would support that. I would want that as part of the,
I think an audit would be a great idea to get them at ground zero to go from there.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
go from there.
You know,
I mean, just like
just like
our
when
long-range
you buy a
facilities
company,
plan.
they have a financial audit
Yeah.
and
Yeah, everyone you
everything,
do an audit, you look
and you
around.
move on from there.
Because
I mean,
they're
it
there.
might help him in what he's doing.
Ray, do you have any thoughts?
I would lean more to the side to let him get himself going before they come in with an audit. I mean, the guy's only there 6 months, he took over. I somewhat agree we should let him feel his way through and then give him time to do what he wants to do and then have the audit come in and look at him. He's-
Well, I mean, these goals are for a year, so, I
Yeah.
mean, we can give him another 6 months and then do it. You know, have some recommendations
Yeah,
from
we
him.
get
Maybe
the-
he assists us in choosing the auditors or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the
and we could work
COVID year
into-
doesn't count, so I mean, you know, how long has he been with us? 9 months during COVID? I mean, what was really going on there?
Well,
So
I
is-
mean,
is he
special
even-
No,
services
it's
not
should be
special
going
services,
I'm
on.
no.
talking for like a while, not just, like looking back, not just the few months he's been here. But I think it would just
But
help.
he's
him
the
be a
new
good
guy in
starting
charge, so
point.
what happened before is not really on his plate.
Well, that's my point, because. if
It's not a
he's here,
criticism of
It's not a
him.
criticism.
I'm not saying it's a criticism, I just feel the guy should have a chance to do his job before we audit him.
We're not ordering him, we're auditing the whole department and
system.
prior. So I
Yeah.
don't- Yeah, prior, so that way it's a starting, a jumping point.
I think, I think it would really be helpful for him. And, you know, I think, I think any audits are always helpful.
Well, you know, that being a living and breathing document here, we can put that as a board goal.
Yeah, and work on
And
it.
then in a few months, if he comes to us and says, here's where we're at, and we're satisfied with that, then we don't need to do it.
Right,
So
or
I,
at least we have it on it.
I
Yes, we
can't
do.
speak with much authority on the topic because I don't know who does these audits or what they entail really. So from, it sounds like a wise idea, I guess, but I don't know enough about this to really speak with any authority to it. I would be interested in evaluating the need for an audit. I would like more information, who does these audits, who would hire the auditor, what would be involved with that.
So then can we put it
It would
on?
be,
the
yeah,
goal?
to explore, because it
To
would be just like
explore.
we got the architects to start
Yeah.
doing it, but it was all the same steps.
Okay, so how would we word that?
Explore.
Explore the special education,
Explore the need for,
Yeah.
we should be moving forward to exploring to getting one. I mean, it's all the steps that we would take to hire a financial auditor, to hire, what was your auditors, all the steps we went through. You
Right,
guys
yeah.
sat down as a committee, you went through all the different ones, Teresa being the BA brought them forward. Nathania being our attorney would bring them forward. Probably special services department would sit down with your on, we would go through, we would figure it out, we would weigh it out. and all
Maybe,
that.
maybe Russ can weigh in on it before it goes as a goal. Like,
No,
should
it's
he?
it's board goals, not Russ's goal.
yeah, but he's the person that can speak to us with a level of authority.
No, I
on it,
know,
but
but
I
we're-
can't, I can't speak. to
This is just a goal. So I
Yeah,
mean, if we're
But
supporting,
you're saying a goal to do something
right,
without us having all of the information about it.
well, that's why we're saying the word explore. So we're looking into if this is, something that we want to do to move forward.
I mean, we could put, evaluate the need for an audit of the special services department and have him come and talk to us about it and see what his view. He might say that'd be great. That'll help me a lot. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I think that wording would be most appropriate. Considering we don't have, the director here today, we don't have the board attorney, the people who are, able to speak to it with any more authority than I personally can.
So why don't we just put it down as item F, explore,
I like Martin's wording, evaluate the need.
Evaluate the
for-
need for a
Yeah,
special
that's
services
very
audit.
good.
And that leaves it open, and then that might morph into, explore who we should have do a special
Right.
services audit. You know,
Right,
it's
right,
just-
and then we'll do it. in-
and then Teresa's,
Special
the
services,
chair of special services, so then she can look into that further.
So should we request that possibly he could come and talk
Yes.
to us at the next meeting and possibly give us a snapshot of where we are or something along those
Well,
lines?
why don't we
Serena, do you
backtrack?
think-
I'll talk with him in special services committee.
Oh, okay.
He'll be
Yeah.
in our committee. He comes to all of our committee meetings,
Okay.
and then we could take it there, and then from there, we'll report out, and then.
What I would suggest that the superintendent should have a conversation with him as well, because he reports directly. to the
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying,
superintendent.
not to us
Yeah.
No, we're
directly,
not-
but
yeah, we're
he's in
not.
our meetings and superintendent's our meetings, we'll go from there.
Okay. So did you get the verbiage?
Yes, evaluate the need for a special services audit.
Yeah, I thought I heard some conversation about touching base with our attorney. I would recommend that she's looped into the conversation. I think that she is very, she cares for our district and is certainly going to watch the district operations from a legal standpoint.
Right.
I'm not sure, how she feels about an audit. I do know at one time she was a little concerned about it because of the, the time that, Mr. Fay has been here for, I guess, about 5 or 6 months at this time. So, but I'll certainly meet with Mr. Fay about evaluating the need for an audit. I have to be honest, I need to get kind of educated on it. I mean, I've been a superintendent for 14 years. I've been through a budget audit every single year of my superintendent life. I've never been through a special ed audit, so I don't really know what it entails. So.
Entails looking into the department, making sure we're compliant, meeting students' needs, looking at goals and objectives, making sure the department, are we using our resources well? Are we using our money well? Are we using personnel well? Like, it's really just an overall component to
Right.
say, how is the department running? What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? Where should we utilize personnel to the best of like their interests? See, that's the beauty of special ed. There's such a range of your certifications or what you can do. And sometimes people are placed in positions they may want to be somewhere else. So they may say, this is where I've been, but my strength is this, or I'd like to be certified in this, whatever the case. And then you can make sure your personnel is being used to their best of their ability and interests, and it saves the district money. It meets the students' needs. I just think it would be a really good thing for us to look into. And when we did meet with the attorney, she did say it is up to the board to decide to have one.
think
And it
that-
is our
My
job
thing
to
too
make
is
sure.
about audits, though, when I go back to him just starting, but they're very time consuming. Financial audits can be all consuming. I'm sure this audit is just like every other audit. So he's starting out, he's getting going, but now he's gonna be spending all his time satisfying whatever the audit, whatever questions they ask, which we don't necessarily know. So he'll be splitting what time he has already on focusing on what he's supposed to be focusing right off the bat. To dealing with an audit, just saying stuff that even happened before, which makes it even harder for him to get the information because he wasn't there for it. So he might not know what went on before. Like I said, exploring the need to see if we need one, I'm okay with,
Yeah, we'll
but
take that route.
I wouldn't try
Yeah,
to force it on.
I hear absolutely what both of you are saying,
Yeah.
I know that audits can be time consuming, but if they can yield useful results, it can be valuable.
Yeah.
So
Sure,
I would like
but
to learn
just the
more about
timing
this.
of it.
I'd like to know, who conducts these audits, what the end result is, a lot more information about it, but I'm open to exploring it.
Sounds good.
So did we talk about speaking about this again in September?
So we're gonna have it on as item F, and the verbiage will be to evaluate the need for a special services audit.
Yeah.
And that will allow us to work with our resources to talk about what this would entail and what the end result would be.
So will we come back to the board
Yep.
table?
We're gonna,
Yeah,
yes.
we'll do in special services. We'll
Okay.
discuss it there, and then we'll bring it back to the table.
Okay, all right. Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody good with that wording?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the board goals? I know that there's other feedback out there and we're gonna revisit it, but anything for right now?
No.
Okay. Item H, Mr. Vino, we just need to change the wording on that to as amended to include the amendment on goal 2.
And then also on goal 2, to add the quantitative data for the continued progression of the in-house initiatives. I think that's the bottom of the
Where are we?
second page.
Where are we?
I went to goal 2. Provide board oversight to ensure continued progression of the in-house initiative which have replaced outside therapeutic services. Goal 2, bottom, number 3A. And then to be able, instead of just reporting out 3 times a year, but with some sort of data, including data.
You just want to say with metrics or?
Well, not really.
What do you want to say with that?
how about with quantitative and qualitative data, like some sort of
Okay.
measurable data?
In that report.
Yeah, the three.
So I just want to make sure that the administration knows what the board is looking for on this. So what type of data are you looking for? Or what type of information are you looking for?
Well, I'm gonna go back to the goal. Board oversight to ensure continued progression. So I'm looking for data to ensure continued progression
Okay.
Okay,
without giving away any personal identifiable
That's it.
information
Okay.
of our students.
Yeah, that's where you have to be careful.
okay. So we can change that wording. We
Isn't
can
that
add,
always not to identify the,
One would think and hope.
no, I know, well, we know that doesn't always come to true, but, I'm just saying, right? have
Okay,
to
so
write it in.
yeah.
No, I'm
so
not saying they have to write the.
report
Oh, I'm
out
sorry.
three
Okay,
times per
that's
year
But
with,
we haven't gotten data. in the past.
so report
Yeah,
out
the
3
data's
times per year
fine. I
with
thought you were
quantitative and
talking about-
qualitative data.
But you might have to, because you've experienced that.
So it will state to report out 3 times per year with quantitative and qualitative data.
Correct.
So there's been 2 changes to the goals. 4F, goal 2, 4F, and 3A. Everybody clear on those changes? Yep. Yep, I'm gonna give a copy of this document that's that is, because I have a PDF that I've sent you, but I'll give you the Google document, so that way you guys can just have that. I got it from, I think, Brad and Mark, who had it before me. Yeah, I'll make these changes, but I'll give you guys the access rights to the slide document. Yeah. Mhm. Anything else? All right, so we need to approve these as amended, item H. Ms. Linsky,
You're gonna make a motion.
she needs to state the recommendation.
It is recommended the board approve the board goals 2021-2022 school year as amended.
Can we have a motion for oh, did we already have a motion on this?
Yeah, we had a
We did.
motion.
We did.
Yeah.
We have
Okay.
to do a motion to have it as amended, don't we?
Yeah, can we have a,
Amended.
can we have a motion to amend the board goals as stated? Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second
Second.
by Mr. Zimmerman, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Can we have a roll call vote on the board goals as amended?
Yes,
Yes.
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 Item I in the addendum,
It is recommended the board approve membership in the Mercer County Special Services School District Cooperative Pricing System.
can we have a motion for recommendation I?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second,
Second.
second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, you gotta slow
Yes.
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 Great. We need one more item on the addendum.
It is recommended that the board approve the payroll business office position and job description.
Can we have a motion for recommendation J?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Zimmerman, second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that is all of the recommendations. Item N is public participation. If you have any comments, please step up to the podium and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Elizabeth Belsey from Town Center. Good evening. I'm here to speak about the rotating schedule being put in the high school this year. As I understand it, the schedule was supposed to be enacted last year, but because of COVID, it was delayed a year. But here we are a year later, and it's still in a pandemic. 14 states have already had to close their districts due to COVID outbreaks. I'm sure our parents and students alike are excited to be starting our school year full-time in person, but that doesn't exactly erase the looming what ifs. And why did we start a schedule this year if we're still in a pandemic? We don't know how long our doors will be able to be open. Your first district goal states, foster a safe and inclusive learning environment, supported at every level from classroom to community, where every student can be their authentic best. I actually loved this goal. I think it's lofty, but fantastic.
Mhm.
Every student should be allowed to be their authentic best. One of your indicators of success under this goal is to assess the changing needs of students due to the impact of COVID-19. I'm curious if when discussing the thought of this rotating schedule, if you asked the students, parents, teachers, and administrators about their thoughts. Did the Special Services Committee or the Student Life Committee from the board discuss the implementation and the timing of implementing the schedule? When researching the schedule with other schools that have it, did you speak to their special services teams and their child study teams to have support in place for our students who have IEPs? Your second district goal states drive student achievement and academic success across the wide range of needs within our student population to ensure the growth and development of the whole child. One of your indicators of success under this goal is to solicit feedback from CTAG. While this schedule might have some great possibilities for some students, I wonder how flexible it is for some of our other students that should be included in our every student. I sat down today and asked my incoming freshman about what he thought about this schedule. I can't repeat his initial comment here, but when we got past that, I asked him why. He said, I can't say for everyone, but I just see myself getting all mixed up. That high school is so big. And while I'm getting used to that, I'm supposed to follow this. I'll never make it to a single class on time. I can't imagine that anyone who has a student with an IEP would be okay with the timing of this. There are students who haven't set foot in a school in the last 18 months, and this is what we're going to send them back to. Why would we stress them out so unnecessarily this year? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
It's not like last week. I'm Vicki Smith, and you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm from Lake Walkill section of Vernon. I am a teacher at the high school, an English teacher. I am the VTEA president. I've been a resident in Vernon for over 20 years. And I'm a little disappointed in the behavior here tonight on behalf of the audience. I think that behavior, Mr. Zimmerman could probably back me up, is more appropriate and at a cocky game.
It's possible.
Everybody has, and I tell my students this, it's right in my classroom rules. We come here, everybody has different views, different opinions.
Yep.
You come from different places, but we're respectful. We listen, we discuss, we don't boo or shout down people. And I think that maybe we should have some classroom rules in our agenda now. Because I was embarrassed. Actually, I was also a little nervous. I was wondering if anybody would have called a police officer because I really was getting very nervous. And I understand Sparta was going through the same thing, so you're not alone. I think it was a coordinated effort. I had to get that off my chest. It was embarrassing. And you didn't hear half of what I was hearing behind me in my ears. So I hope that when people get up to speak the next time, whatever they wish to say, because it is public forum, you're entitled to your right as an American, such as I, you know, that you're respectful. Say what you have to say, and then let other people say what they have to say in a respectful civil, adult manner. Because what kind of image are we putting forth to our children if we can't act like adults? So I had to get that off my chest.
Mhm.
As far as masks are concerned, everybody hates them. Yes. Right? When my son was little, I purposely, because I was advised to restrict his movement. When I did, sometimes it was tight, it affected his breathing a little bit. It was hot, it was uncomfortable. But damn it, every day I put on that seat belt. Did I need it? No, knock wood. We were never in a major car accident. I erred on the side of caution. Can we err on the side of caution? That's all it is. If you're really that concerned about what it's doing to your child, speak to your physician. Just speak to your physician. That's it. If that's what your concern is, don't get it off of YouTube. Don't get it off the internet. Speak to your physician. They know you, they know your child. And lastly, as teacher, I am looking forward to going back to my classroom, to seeing my students. And I will say, rotating schedules got me a little nervous as well. But here's what we do at the high school, and I told you this last week. We help each other. We're not going to berate a child who's a few minutes late because they got lost. We help each other. We're going to put things in place. And will I screw up one day and start teaching to my juniors when I'm supposed to be teaching to my seniors? Probably. But it's a mistake, and we learn from our mistakes. And one of the things we have to learn is that we all know life doesn't follow a routine. The last 18 months shows that. We have to adapt. We'll help each other out. It's going to be okay. Let's try it out and see. And if it's a total failure, then we learn from those failures and we move on. But I even said, just look for the minions on the door. You'll find me. Okay? We help each other. We'll be there for each other. So any student that's anxious, don't be. There's enough in the world to worry about. But going into that building, know that you are cared for, you're protected, you are loved, and we will take care of you any way that we can. That is what we do as educators. And lastly, I'd like to thank this board and administration. It stinks these past few months. It's been horrible. But we've all did what we had to do to get the job done. We keep the conversation going. And we don't, and now I'm going to put on my VTA hat. We don't always agree, but as long as we discuss each other, discuss in a civil matter, we can come to a conclusion. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky.
Any other public comments? Ms. Heath?
Good evening. Do I need to sign in?
If you could, please, thank you.
Do you have a pen? It's underneath. Oh.
Jennifer, I need you to give me like a giant sign telling me to remind people, because she always kindly asks me to remind people before the meeting, and then I always forget once I start running the meeting. So
You're doing
I'm
fine.
gonna try to
You're doing
remember.
fine.
Good evening. My name is Zoe Heath. I live in the Hidden Valley section of Vernon. And I just wanted to echo what I said at the last meeting. I was just at Sparta's Board of Education meeting. It was on the football field. It was loud. People were stomping their feet in the bleachers about differing opinions. There was booing, there was clapping. And part of me is very happy to see literally hundreds of people so engaged. It was like a football game. But it was also concerning because people there were very concerned about masks and critical race theory. And I'm just very happy to be in a district where our leadership, both in, excuse me, sorry, my mask falling down, both through our faculty and staff, through our administration, through our school board members, are respectful. I was able to catch some of the meeting on my drive here, so I heard that you guys were having some issues too. But I just want to once again thank you all for your leadership and doing the right thing for students, even if it isn't easy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zoe, 2 board meetings in one evening?
Let's lock the doors on it, just so you know.
Any other members of the public? Anybody who is attending via Zoom who would like to comment, please raise your hand and you'll be admitted to the meeting. You'll have 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is me part 2 because I ran out of time the last one. Okay. Number 1, I wanted to add to my prior comment, and I can make this short because Vicky Smith already said it all. Let's keep it civil and let's discuss it. Let's not fight. And my number 2 comment was regarding what I have heard quite a few times in the past few meetings. The administration doesn't inform the public. I don't know if the people know that there is a podcast. I don't think they know because it's being watched by 200-300 people. There is a podcast put out by Mr. Vino and Chuck McKay that speaks, I would say, about pretty much anything that's going on. So go to the YouTube and watch it. And for Mr. Wiener and Chuck McKay, I would like to thank them for putting out the podcast. And more mainly, only the other thing I might want to add to that is advertise it maybe a little bit better. Maybe put it on the first page of the vtsd.com page podcast with a link there so people can easier find it. But I encourage everybody to advise them. And robotics was mentioned, I guess, when it came to girls and boys relationship. I just want to say we have 2 girls for every boy currently for the past 4 years. And
For you.
if anybody asks for the reason for that, robotics used to be a blue overall kind of club, and it transferred to a white lab coat kind of club. We didn't go out and see girls, but that seemed to have attracted the girls, and now we are having the trouble. We are looking for more boys. So if you have a boy, send them to robotics. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Parent. Any other members of the public? Okay, we'll close it to the public at this time. Item O is open board member forum. I want to open the floor to the board.
All right, I'll go. I wanted to respond to you in regard to the rotating schedule because Special Services Committee was brought up, and I am the chairperson of Special Services. I do want you to know, as Chair of Special Services, I did not know about the rotating schedule. So therefore, it wasn't something that I even had on my radar to put on an agenda for a meeting. With that said, summer is always difficult to even get a meeting going between vacations and everything else, and not to dismiss it. I'm in the process of trying to reschedule a meeting that we were supposed to have last Friday. But what ended up happening was I didn't even have rotating schedules on the agenda. So I do want to let you know, I am thankful to everyone, to all of you and to other members who have brought that forward from a special education perspective. I do believe that to not be concerned about the rotating schedule is to come from a place of privilege. I truly believe that. I believe when people tell students who have IEPs, don't worry, whatever it is, it's coming from a place of privilege, because to be a student with an IEP adds an extra layer to begin with. Then to know that the students might feel different, and then for whatever reason, they may feel more self-conscious if they make a mistake with the schedule. And it may unfortunately reinforce feelings for them. So not saying this is all the cases, I'm just looking at it from possibly that avenue. But I do believe when it is dismissed, it is from a place of privilege. That's in a sense how I look at it. But I've also been in the field of special ed for many years. So I try to look at it from different perspectives. And the CPAG was mentioned. I can't speak for the CPAG. CPAG stands for Special Education Parent Advisory Group. So they're the parents, as you know. So their job, the CPAG's job, is to handle any issue that is known as pervasive or systemic. And that means 2 or more of anything. 2 or more desks that are taken up, 2 or more classrooms, 2 or more students. As soon as an issue becomes 2 or more, that's when the CPAG can begin to look into something. A parent group cannot handle individual issues. So, granted, I'm a board member, but since we have a very good CPAG and they're well regarded, I would definitely recommend as parents reaching out to them. If anyone needs their email, I'd be happy to give it out, which I don't know off the top of my head, but I will look it up right now at this moment and put it out there. I am going to act as though I'm sending them an email at the moment. So I can, there it is. Okay. I always forget if it's CPAG Vernon or Vernon CPAG. It is Vernon CPAG, VERNON SEPAG @gmail.com. Also, you have your whole chain of command. This is another thing I often talk about with the chain of command. Whenever there's an issue, especially in special ed or in any educational community environment, you want to start with, let's say, the teacher. Obviously, there's no teacher here. We're talking about a schedule, but I'm just going to go through the chain of command like it's happening. You start with your teacher. After your teacher, special ed, either do case manager, principal, okay, depending on whatever it is. Let's say you go case manager, you go principal. Then you're going to go up to supervisor. After supervisor, which is Mrs. McDougall, after Mrs. McDougall, you're going to go to the director of special services, which is Mr. Fay. And then after Mr. Fay comes Dr. McKay over here. And after Dr. McKay comes Ms. Davino. As long as you follow your chain of command and go through all your steps. If you're not satisfied with one, go to the next. Once you get up to Ms. Davino, if you're not satisfied with what Ms. Davino said, then you're more than welcome to come to the Board of Ed. But one of my concerns just in general, and I always tell parents this, especially in special ed, if you go from here to the Board of Ed and you skip all those steps in between, it's like, it puts, unfortunately, the administration at a loss, and it puts the parent at a loss because you're trying to put all these puzzle pieces together. And then in fairness, so is the administration and, you know, the right hand and the left hand. But I also understand, due to the time constraints, it's August, you know, this information just came out. I understand, but just for all future reference, I always like to teach the lesson of the chain of command, because as long as the chain of command is followed, there's never a problem. The CPAG is a good avenue. The chain of command is a good avenue. You've brought this already forward to the board, which I thank you. And the administration, you know, at this point, it's been brought to their attention, the board's attention. The other thing I like to explain to parents is the Board of Education, we are not allowed to administer. We are not allowed to administer the schools. It's our job to make sure the schools are run well. So I can't go and tell Ms. Davino or Mr. Fay, like I can't call Mr. Fay and be like, about this schedule. I'm not allowed to do that. No board member is allowed to do that. I'm allowed to call Ms. Davino as the superintendent and say to her, hi, I have concerns about the schedule. Board members are only supposed to be talking directly to the superintendent. We're not supposed to be calling the principals. We're not supposed to be calling anyone with these kind of issues. Therefore, we can contact Ms. Davino, who, as you know, by then it would be through the chain of command. But I did just want to let you know about the rotating schedule. I apologize, I don't have more of an answer for you. I wish I did, but like I said, in special services, I haven't had a meeting recently. We're in the process of trying to schedule one. And what I will let you know is I will put it on the agenda for when we do have our next meeting to find out. I can't make any big promises by any means, but all I can do is learn about it. And then when we have our committee reports, report out.
At least
Um,
resources that would also help us
Okay.
accommodate for students who are having difficulties as well.
Okay, see, and that's something honestly that with the administration, like Mr. Fay, the Director of Special Services, when you're dealing with a special ed issue in a school, the principals do amazing in general with running the school, but when you're dealing specifically with a special ed issue, that's why we have child study teams. I have to tell you, I've worked in New York State, I've worked in New Jersey. I choose to live in New Jersey because we have child study teams. New York doesn't. In New York State, the teachers oversee everything. So when I was a special ed teacher, I was also a case manager. There was no child study team, just so you know. So here you have a whole child study team, and that's what makes New Jersey so unique and one of the best resources in general for special education. So what I always tell parents is, I know it's frustrating, but in New Jersey, having a child study team, having a case manager who is separate from the teacher and all that, it's gold. It's amazing. We don't get that everywhere else. And then go through the chain of command through them. If you're not satisfied with them, work your way up. We have 2 brand new administrators. We have Mrs. McDougall and Mr. Fay. They're there, they're available, they're here throughout the summer. I mean, school's starting soon, they're going to be available. So that would be my recommendation. Then Dr.
Right.
McKay
Mhm.
and Ms. Davino. And I will put it on the agenda. Resources I can't give out per se as a board member, but the administration or try the CPAG. And then there's also numerous other special education organizations in New Jersey that are more than happy to help that the CPAG can give out, and they offer free services to help out for whatever. They can give you resources, different avenues.
Thank you.
So, but I didn't want to ignore. I prefer not to go back and forth in dialogue, just so you know, but I did just want to bring this up. So.
Other board members?
So just to mention something on the rotating schedule, my daughter was the one up there shaking, by the way, and both of them. And she also has an IEP and she's completely freaking out about this. And I think the way that it was presented could have been done much better. I think that it created a lot of confusion. I believe until the day before yesterday, when you logged on to Genesis, you would see the list schedule of your what's the word, sir? Of the schedule, sorry, of the schedule. And it looked like a normal schedule. So many of the kids that were friends with my kids didn't even know it was rotating schedule. They said, no, I got my schedule. And I said, well, did you click on that thing that says Bell? Well, when you click on Bell, it brings up the color coded schedule for you. So you really get a good idea of what it's like. Well, until about a day and a half ago, they didn't lead with that. They led with the list schedule. But as I understand it now, I think, I'm not sure, I didn't check, but I think that it leads with the Bell schedule now. However, there was something omitted. The monthly schedule. The color-coded monthly schedule that tells you that this Monday is day 1, but next Monday might be day 3. So that only came out yesterday, as I understand it. So I think the way that it was delivered to everybody could have been done much, much better. Unfortunately, the board has no jurisdiction over this whatsoever. So, I mean, I think really what should have happened was there should have been parent meetings, student meetings, maybe a big presentation in the auditorium explaining what this was all about, instead of just pushed out and expected everybody to say, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. All right. I am concerned that my daughter's going to get lost, both of them. And so are they. You know, and things that aren't taken into consideration on this rolling schedule are seniors that get out early, maybe go to work or what have you. there's a situation where, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, administration, that somebody could have to sit in study halls in lunch from 10:30 in the morning until right before last period and have to go to last period. So, it's not for everybody. I get that. And I'm hoping it works. But we'll see what happens. But, I think it could have been presented better and in a more clear way to the people as opposed to just an email saying, hey, we're going to a rotating schedule. So, I think even something as simple as having a document on the parent portal on Genesis that told you everything about it, and you had to check that box off that said you read it and understood it, because I have 3 children in the high school, or 3 children in the school district. I had to fill out 18 forms before I could even get on there and see their schedule. So I really wish that would have been one of them. It would have cut down on a lot of confusion. So I feel your pain.
Thank you for understanding.
I'm done.
Other board members? So from what we see in the newspaper in other districts lately, what we're hearing from Zoe tonight, by comparison, our meetings have been relatively civil, even tonight. But that being said, this was the first time in 2 years of running our meetings that I've actually picked up the gavel. I'm sure, like you noticed, I don't use the gavel at our meetings. It's not really the way that I run our meetings. If you're on the board or a member of the public, I run these meetings with a really long lead. I wait till every other board member has spoken most of the time to speak last, to make sure that I'm not stifling other board members who want to speak. If you're a member of the public, I and every other member of this board, we're going to sit here and listen to everything you have to say, whether we're here till 11:45 at night or not. We've done that many times before, and we're going to always do that. And you're always going to be welcome to come here. And I'm speaking to an empty room or half empty room right now. We've got 5 members of the public who stuck through till the end. But I hope people at home are listening, because you're always going to be welcome to come here when you're standing at the podium. We're not doing other things. We're making eye contact with you. We're listening to what you have to say to us. We may not always respond, but will speak with the administration afterwards with follow-up questions. We will ask if they can address concerns. You're always going to be welcome to come here, but we have to maintain a certain level of decency and respect. I said it before, we expect our students in a classroom to not interrupt, to not shout, to not make comments about what the other person's saying because we don't like what they're saying. If we're going to expect that of our students, if you're going to come before our board in a public meeting and do that, we're going to expect it of you too. So I hope that maybe this message is getting through to anybody who's listening at home, but that is how we run our meetings here in Vernon. That's how we're always going to run our meetings. And we're going to continue to listen, and we're going to continue to respect each other. That's all I have to say. Anything else? Anything from the administration?
May I make one brief
Please.
comment? Just to echo what you said, Justin, I appreciate that. The other hope, and I think Ms. Smith said it really eloquently, and being kind of disappointed in the conduct. And while I respect and appreciate the responses and opinions of everyone, because we are televised, everybody can see this, including our children. And we model how we behave in schools. Our teachers model, whether it's direct instruction or it's behavior, and the board, I'm proud to say, has modeled wonderful listening skills to our, community members, as always. And our children see the way we act as adults. And when we model anger and booing and disrespect, we're really not leading by example or teaching our children what we hope to have them contribute as they grow up.
Actually, and what Ms. Savino's saying is not just empty words. I've had 2 different people since our last meeting last week where there was a bit of, not the most respectful behavior. 2 separate people spoke to 2 separate occasions where students in our town that they saw after our meeting made a comment about behavior at the board table. And I think it speaks to the fact that kids are watching and the community is watching. So when we come to a public meeting, whether we're on the board or if we're in the public, we need to act with respect for one another. We can't lose that. We've seen ourselves as a country lose that in the last year and a half. I think we saw it many times without going into specifics, but we have to we have to continue to treat each other with respect. Thank you, Mr. Reno.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Donnell, second by Mr. Zimmerman. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
All right.